As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. Blockchain gaming platform Forte valued at $1 billion. The headline here, this is a blockchain-based gaming infrastructure startup. They raised $185 million, $1 billion post-money valuation. They have, solid investors. You're talking about Griffin Gaming Partners, Union Grove Venture Partners, Andreessen Horowitz, Battery Ventures, Tiger Global. Yeah, this is like as blue chip, as solid as venture investors get. And so they're sitting at this intersection of like NFTs and gaming. And what's interesting is they're more like infrastructure. So the idea here is that games that want to implement blockchain or NFTs or these kinds of technologies, they have technology or platform or infrastructure that can be built into games. Now, I'm curious, Jeff, we haven't talked much about the intersection of blockchain and gaming. We touched a little bit on NFTs and gaming. What do you think of a raise like this? First of all, no one talked about this. Like, I feel like this flew under the radar, even though it's a massive raise with maybe the best investors we've ever seen in a gaming company. But I'm curious what you think of this sort of development in general, what you make of this trend. Is this a lot of hype? Is there substance here? How do you feel about it?
I mean, there is certainly a lot of hype, clearly with NFTs, blockchain, crypto in general, and then you toss in those investors. I mean, this is a pretty impressive show of force, but just because there's a lot of hype doesn't mean there's not substance behind it or potentially won't be substance behind it. I didn't catch in the article, what actually they're going to be doing. But I do think that, I think you've talked about it before on the podcast, or William has talked about it. And I certainly agree that there is a place in the future for either NFTs or blockchain or something within games when you're buying these digital items where they can be tokenized and you're holding one of a limited amount of items, and then you have some saleability of it. Now, the one potential challenge with the saleability aspect is that, as I understand, particularly if you're talking about loot boxes, one of the big reasons why loot boxes are not considered gambling is because there's no monetary value. There's no way to cash them out. So as soon as you allow transferability, I think you could run into problems with it being considered gambling. But that notwithstanding, I think there is a massive opportunity here where you've always used the example of, the sword in World of Warcraft, where you're the only one who can wield the sword and then you can sell it. I think that is a great idea. Now, I didn't catch what this company is going to be doing. Are they, maybe they're the ones minting the NFTs, maybe they're doing the infrastructure, not sure. But I certainly think that there is a big opportunity for a company like that in the space. It will just be a question of when and how quickly do the big publishers catch on and start putting this into their games. I'm sure they're looking at it.
Yeah, Forte fundamentally bills themselves as like tools and services for game developers to integrate blockchain technology into their games, right? And so I sort of think part of why it got such a big valuation, big round, such marquee investors is I would guess many of them are looking at this like, hey, this could be the Unity or the Unreal Engine, right, of the future. When it comes to blockchain and NFTs and other sort of blockchain-related technologies being integrated into games, right? It becomes the de facto sort of standard set of tools that every game developer uses because they don't want to roll their own. And then, if you believe that blockchain and NFTs and all these technologies have a future in gaming, now you go, wait a second, like if Forte really does have that set of tools and infrastructure and game developers are adopting this, that could be a really big play, right? Like, again, you could get something on the scale of a Unity or an Unreal. I don't know if you think that's the thesis here for these investors, if you had to sort of take a guess.
I think it is, certainly something of that nature, that they can be a tools business embedded sort of into the gaming ecosystem. And it doesn't seem that far-fetched. I think we've all espoused the concept. It seems like everyone's on board that it would make sense to have some sort of tokenization of microtransaction items. And then it becomes a question of, okay, how does that actually get implemented? And if this third party makes it easier for developers to implement, they have a place in the ecosystem. Now, we know nothing about what their plan is or how they are going to implement that, but like conceptually, to me, that's an idea you're willing to bet on. So it's not surprising that they've kind of assembled the Avengers of VCs.
I looked at Forte's own website, right? And it's interesting. Let me just pull it up here. They say over 20 of the world's finest game developers are already building on the Forte platform. And you look at this list and you go, it's not exact. I mean, Hi-Rez is a pretty good, well-known studio, but we're not talking about like a who's who of game studios, right? Like some decent names on here, but it's not, we're not talking about Blizzard. We're not talking about, Respawn. We're like we don't have this caliber of game studio on this list. $1 billion valuation's pretty rich, right? But clearly they're betting on a ton of growth in this list of names, right? You would have to. Do you know? I don't know if you agree with that, Jeff.
Oh, 100%. I mean, same way. I view this almost similar to how I view skills, where if you're a bull on skills, you are betting that at some point in the future, you'll be able to play Candy Crush on skill. Like you'll be able to bet on Candy Crush via the skills platform, and AAA, massive publishers will be embedding that competition layer into their games. It's kind of the same thing you're betting on here. So it's not surprising, and it doesn't, I guess I wouldn't be disappointed if I were them that they only have these adopters, right? The early adopters were never going to be at EA and Activision. Like that would be shocking if they were the first ones to try these new innovations, disrupting, the industry model. That's just not the way innovation typically happens. So the fact that they even have those names means they have some sort of tech, which actually that's further along than I would have expected, I guess is my point.
I just want to read some of these comments. Sorry, I'm a bit behind here. Christian said, Paul, you should turn these YouGov facts into an engagement poll during after shows and on social media. Christian's a great idea. And we have plans to do a lot more with YouGov data and integrating it into the content and outside of the content. But I love this idea, and we're definitely going to try all of this. It's more just a question of time and resources right now. And but that's a great idea. I think like I said, stay tuned over the next few weeks. You're going to see more and more come out of the YouGov partnership in terms of content and integration. But I appreciate it. Chris says, I'm still mad at the amount of vaporware I've spent on my son's Valorant skins. Give me NFTs. I mean, Chris, would it really have made a difference? It's a good, I like the comment, but it's like, if you had NFTs, fundamentally what changes for you? I'm just curious. Is it a sense that it may have more future value, or I'm curious how you think about why NFTs might have made you less mad. Cam says at YouGov on Twitter. Yeah, thank you, Cam. Thank you for Cam. We need to hire you. We just need to. I thought you were going to be our merch guy, but maybe you need to be our promo guy here. Christian says, agree with Paul's point about it being the blockchain engine for the AAA publishers. Could be really valuable and support valuation, maybe lead to acquisition. Anytime a startup gets $1 billion valuation, the universe of acquirers definitely gets smaller. And now you're only talking some of the biggest companies in the world, either tech or gaming companies. At this stage, I think we're just seeing such a clear path to IPO for so many of these platforms that I'd be surprised if the exit was acquisition. by a AAA publisher.
It
I would be
wouldn't make
surprised.
sense probably for a publisher because you're B2B, so you probably need, if Activision buys them, are they going to still let EA and all the others?
Unless you think it gives you some very unique advantage or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But you'd also be killing a lot of their revenue. But yes, you're right. I think the obvious exit would be to Unity or Epic or Valve, or a Facebook or someone like just a software company. But yeah, I agree. I think if you're already at $1 billion, you're either going to need to be acquired by someone much bigger, or you're going to need to go public to get people their return. Christian
says, happy to help. Christian, we love having you here every week. It really means a lot, and love the comments. Chris says, I told him I had Transformers as a kid. Today they are worth something. What's in his digital toy box? I mean, this is why you have NFTs selling for, ridiculous amounts of money. This kind of thinking, and it's hard to refute, right? It's hard to argue that, Chris. I guess who will care to buy a digital, like a Vandal skin 25 years from now, whether you have an NFT or not? We have to make the assumption that Valorant will still be relevant in some way. Yeah. And that to me is not a slam dunk. Yes, but maybe. I just think probably unlikely.